This is a Vietnamese sandwich called a banh mi. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. No cheese pull, no dramatic drip. But don't let that fool you. It's one of the most perfectly balanced sandwiches you can eat. Here's the problem though. The version you get on the streets of Vietnam uses ingredients most of us don't even have access to. So instead of giving you a recipe, I'm going to show you 5 building blocks that make a great banh mi. So you can make it anywhere with whatever you already have. Let's go. A good banh mi starts with the carrot and daikon pickle. If there's one component that's non-negotiable in this sandwich, it's this. These pickles are sweet, sour and crunchy, and they do most of the balancing work in a banh mi. They cut through the richness of the meat, wake up the bread, and keep every bite from feeling heavy. Making them is pretty simple. Peel a daikon radish, cut it in half, then slice it thin into matchsticks. Do the same with a carrot. Toss them with salt and let them sit for a few minutes. This pulls out excess moisture and softens them slightly. If you can't find a daikon where you live, don't worry, just use carrots. The sandwich will still work. Now while the vegetables rest, let's make that pickling liquid. In a small saucepan, combine equal parts water and vinegar. I'm using a cup of each. Then add a few peppercorns and about half a cup of sugar to balance the acidity. Heat it gently and whisk it until the sugar dissolves, then let it cool. By now, the vegetables should have released a good amount of water and become slightly pliable. Rinse them thoroughly, transfer them to a container, and pour the cooled pickling liquid over the top. And that's your pickle. You can use it right away, but it gets noticeably better after a couple of hours in the fridge, and even better the next day. And with that, we've got the first building block of a great banh mi. Traditionally, banh mi is filled with things like chalua, a Vietnamese pork roll, or roasted pork belly, along with several other regional styles of meat. But structurally speaking, banh mi isn't loyal to any one protein. What it really cares about is that the filling is flavorful and has enough fat to stand up to the pickles and the bread. Reason why so many fillings can work. To show you what I mean, let's start with a simple breakfast version. Crack a couple of eggs into a hot pan with enough oil to shallow fry them. Keep the heat fairly high so the edges crisp up while the whites set. That's the Southeast Asian way of frying an egg. Ideally, the yolk stays runny or at the least creamy soft. That combination of crispy edges and rich yolk works beautifully inside the sandwich. Set them aside and they're ready to go. Another simple yet strong contender for the filling is a char siu style chicken thighs. The marinade is straightforward, equal parts garlic powder, Chinese 5 spice, and a dash of white pepper with equal parts soy sauce, hoisin, and honey. Give that a good mix. At this point, it helps to set a little marinade aside for basting later on. Score the inner side of the chicken thighs so they cook evenly, then coat them well in the marinade. Let the chicken sit for at least 20 minutes in the marinade or longer if you have the time. Then cook the thighs in an air fryer at 375F for about 10 minutes. Pull them out, brush with the reserved marinade, and put them back in the air fryer, this time at 400F for another 5 or 6 minutes. Now that second round caramelizes the glaze and keeps the chicken juicy. Once done, thinly slice the chicken thighs and they're ready for the sandwich. Now you can use a number of protein options here and they should all land up fine as long as you enjoy eating them. And with that, we've got the second building block of a great banh mi. Most people associate a banh mi with a rich liver pate. And while it's common, it's not universal. Plenty of Vietnamese versions skip it entirely and rely on simpler fats to do the same job. Because that's really the role of the spread here, to add richness and slightly coat the bread so everything else stays balanced. Plain mayo does that, salted butter does that too. In fact, butter make it better. And if you want a little extra character, a mix of mayo with sriracha and hoisin works incredibly well. Thanks to Chef John for this. Now you can use a canned pate or make your own if you have the time. Just remember, you only need to get that layer of fat in place so the rest of the sandwich stays balanced. I'm using plain mayonnaise today and it works perfectly well. You'll also sometimes see a dash of Maggi seasoning used in a banh mi. It adds a bit of salt and umami. But if you don't have it, you can skip it. The sandwich isn't relying on it. And with that, the third building block is in place. A traditional banh mi usually includes sliced cucumbers and fresh coriander or cilantro sprigs. The skin on sliced cucumbers add a clean crunch, something light to balance out the richer parts of the sandwich. And the coriander adds a bright, almost citrusy note that lifts everything else. But unlike the pickles, these are a bit more flexible. What they bring is freshness. If you skip them, the sandwich still works. I like to add them because they also add a visual contrast. That bit of green goes a long way in making the sandwich feel more alive. Next up is the most important building block for the banh mi. On the streets of Vietnam, a banh mi is made with a Vietnamese baguette. It's got an almost eggshell-like crust and a soft, airy interior. Now that contrast is what makes the sandwich feel light even when the fillings are rich. Realistically though, you probably won't find that exact bread where you live. And while you can make it at home, you don't really have to. These are a bunch of baguettes I found where I live. A smaller 6 to 8 inch baguette works the best, but a longer one is just as fine. You can always cut it down to size. In most cases, all a bread needs is a quick refresh. Run your baguette briefly under water or dip it lightly, then pop it into an air fryer or an oven at around 400 F for a couple of minutes. If you're working with a longer baguette, cut it into portions first and cover the cut side with a foil so the inside doesn't dry out. Now keep an eye out as it heats. You're looking for the crust to crisp up without the bread turning hard. Once the surface dries out, a light splash of oil really helps the crust finish nicely. Another minute in and pull it out. Doing this leaves the bread crisp on the outside with a soft and pillowy inside. Cut the baguette lengthwise, leaving a hinge at the back. It might not have that delicate eggshell-like shatter, but it gets you close enough for a really good banh mi. Now with the bread ready, we're ready to assemble. Start with the warm bread. Spread a generous layer of mayonnaise across both sides. For the egg banh mi, add a light dash of Maggi seasoning, then layer in the sliced cucumbers. Place the fried eggs on top, letting those crisp edges and soft yolks sit right in the center. Then comes a pickle, followed by a few sprigs of coriander. Finish with another light touch of Maggi seasoning. Now gently press everything in. A long knife helps guide it without tearing the bread. And that's your breakfast banh mi. Simple but incredibly satisfying. For the chicken char siu version, follow the same structure, mayo on the bread, add a light dash of Maggi seasoning, layer the sliced cucumbers, then the sliced char siu chicken, the pickles, and herbs. Little more of that umami stuff and close it up, press it in, and it's ready. Now when you bite in, the egg version is rich, crispy and comforting, and yet the pickles keep it sharp and balanced. The chicken version is deeper, slightly sweet and more indulgent, but it's still light on its feet. Now folks, with this framework, you don't have to wait for your trip to Vietnam to enjoy a great banh mi. You can make one right at home. And if you like this Vietnamese sandwich, let me take you to India next, where millions of people eat this egg toast every single day. It's called a bread omelette, and I'll show you a system to build it with the fillings you love. Click this video right here and I'll see you there.